because one of the things people don't realize about dementia and cognitive issues, such as dementia and Alzheimer's, is that it's not just your mind. Because my dad never forgot who I was. He always knew when I walked in the door exactly who I was. And I every time I would go to see him, I would sit in my car and wonder if this is the day I'm going to walk in and my dad does not know who I am.
Welcome to Zestful Aging Podcast, where I speak with change makers from all over the world, from every walk of life, who will inspire you to live with zest. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, and my mission is to bring you optimism about aging and help you make full use of the new opportunities that only come at this stage of life. And to find out more about this podcast, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. Well, today we're going to talk about what it's like to realize that a loved one is experiencing cognitive decline. And our guest today, Darlene Mahoney, is going to tell the story of witnessing her father's strange behavior and how she couldn't or didn't want to see the writing on the wall that he had dementia. And we're going to reflect on why the truth is sometimes so hard to face. And I met Darlene recently at a podcasting conference, and I was really struck by her honesty and willingness to talk about her discovery that her father indeed had dementia. Welcome to the show, Darlene.
Thank you so much for having me join you.
Yeah, it was so lovely to meet with you. And I was just struck at how, you were so open about this journey and seeing some signs and being aware now, in hindsight, I didn't really want to acknowledge what was going on.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's so important to continue to talk about this topic because it is becoming more and more prevalent among seniors and even younger. I mean, it's just getting younger for dementia and Alzheimer's. And I think it's really hard to watch someone that you love, know, respect, start experiencing some cognitive issues, especially as they get older. I think you kind of think, well, it can happen. He's getting older. And then you make excuses for some of the quirky behaviors. And I put that lightly, because it is such a hard thing to face.
Mm-hmm. What was your dad like? What kind of man was he before he started having these symptoms?
Yeah. So my dad was a great dad. I had a lot of respect for him. He was very active in our lives. He was, a jokester, a very bad dad jokester, but a jokester nonetheless. And I think that's probably where I got it from. But he was, he was very much a homebody. For the most part, but he had hobbies. He was a photographer, and he also liked painting and different types of things like that. But he was just a dad that I had my sister and my mom. And so it was the three of us girls, and he was always very respectful for all, with all of us. And so, I was raised in that kind of environment, which was a fabulous environment. I was very blessed to have both my parents.
Yeah. And you talked to me that you grew up in Orlando when Orlando was quite different. You told some fun stories about being a teenager in Orlando.
Oh, yeah. Being a kid in Orlando. For me, I thought it was like that everywhere because I didn't know any different. Mm-hmm. But then I became a military spouse and realized I was very blessed to have so much to do, and especially in my teenage years, because my kids, my daughter specifically, we were in a small town and they didn't have those types of things. So it was pretty limited on the, going to Walmart was a night out. So
what were you saying? You were sort of doing pool.
Yeah.
So, what's the name for it? What pool?
we called it hotel hopping. So we would go to the resorts, because back then they didn't have the gates and the key cards and all that kind of thing. And we would just kind of sneak in and enjoy the pool and then leave. And sometimes we would go to multiple resorts in one night. And we always thought we were so fancy because we would drink Perrier, because of course we were like underage. So we thought we were like living the high life, drinking some Perrier by the pool.
That's really pretty adorable. And so it was you and your sister and your parents and your dad. Sounds like he was a pretty artistic guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. He definitely was. He was kind of a little bit of a deep thinker. He analyzed a lot of things and that type of thing. So yeah, he was good to have conversations with, but yeah, he, one of the things that I think is really important on the dementia side is because we do try to act like it's not existing. And the thing with dementia is it has so many different, effects or signs, not effects, signs, I should say. And those signs can vary so much depending on, what type of dementia, if it's Alzheimer's, if they're having, frontal lobe, if they're having mini strokes, things like that. So it can just vary. The gamut runs. And if you're not educated, when you start seeing things that are just a little bit odd and doing some research, you may not even understand it. I mean, one of the things my dad said to me, and I think back, and my mom passed away about a year before my dad was diagnosed with dementia. And so he was alone. And I have a feeling that probably kind of catapulted it, because loneliness can make someone that is prone or has dementia, it can make it worse. So that's something I have a feeling that he probably had it before she passed away. We didn't know. And he just got significantly worse at a faster pace because he was, experienced the loss of his wife. He was living alone for the first time. And, I think it was just really hard on him mentally.
That makes so much sense, because we know the effects of loneliness are very severe in terms of cognitive effects. So were you then living in Florida again, or were you still far away?
No, I moved back in 2013. And part of the reason why I moved back is because I did want to be closer to my parents, because I hadn't lived in the same town with them. My husband at the time, ex-husband, had retired from the military. So after going through a divorce with him, after 20 years of being married and retirement, I decided to just come home, which was, I've always loved being in Orlando. I've loved being home. There's just something that's, a warm and fuzzy about the familiarity, I guess.
Sure.
So yeah. So I did come back here. I was located at the point when even my mom passed away and then he started getting sick. I was about an hour and a half, because I'm actually located on the coast on, they call it the Space Coast of Brevard County. So I was a little bit farther. So it was a little bit more difficult for me to see some of the things that were kind of going on with him. And he got very stubborn at the end, which is also a sign of potential dementia, is a little stubbornness. Yeah, for sure. But he called me, I think, when I really realized Houston, we have a problem. I mean, I had seen like over purchasing of things, like going to Costco and buying more dog food than a dog could possibly eat, and then markers, cleaning supplies. So I just started seeing some hoarding tendencies and buying things that he didn't need and was unusual for him to be doing.
Is that something that, now that you know, is that a sign? That's not something I have heard of particularly, but now knowing what you know and being in the field, looking back, is that something that is also a sign?
It can be, for sure, because sometimes they'll get to the store and they don't remember what they already have.
Oh, right.
So they'll overbuy. And then if you're going to Costco, then you're really overbuying.
Right, because everything is big.
Exactly. And he's always loved Costco. So I think, I'm not even sure he was going anywhere else. He really was doing a lot of purchasing at Costco. But the other thing that is for me, starting to see Post-it notes around the house. And then seeing pencils and pens and Post-it notes like on the coffee table and next to the bed. So he was writing notes consistently, which I've never seen him do. And I just thought it was just a weird habit he'd picked up. Clearly not so much. So,
and what was he writing about?
Just don't forget this. Different things, just really honestly, a bunch of different things. It wasn't anything really specific. So it's not like he was writing, his shopping list. But he would just write reminders, reminding him. And then the big sign that we're in trouble is I was here and he was there and he called me and he told me, he said, "I'm so mad. I'm paying all this money for cable and I only get one channel." I said, "No, Dad, you don't get one channel. What do you mean?" "I get channel 13, which is the news channel in this market. It's the cable news channel, which when they set up your cable, it's like what they put it on when they leave your house." And he couldn't figure out how to work the remote. So I sent my son over there who was going to UCF and he was really close by. So my son would check on my dad and they would chit chat and they go to breakfast and things like that. But I sent my son over there and he said, "Mom, he's got a couple cable boxes. And this one they just installed. They didn't even unwrap the remote." And so come to find out he was paying for satellite, DirecTV, and 2 different cables.
He overbought.
Well, he didn't understand. Yes, he didn't understand. And back in the day, you could only have one provider in your area. Remember, you used to have one option. And he was getting mail from what he was explaining to me, getting mail. And he thought with that mail was telling him he had to switch new provider. So he wasn't canceling because I think he maybe assumed it was automatically canceling. I don't know. But, he had dementia, so he got very confused, I do believe. So, so he was paying for that. And then I also found 2 cell phones. So, and he started having a really hard time figuring out the cell phones. And on the television, we put sticky notes. He kept turning it off like the HTML to where, he kept messing with it and then it would lose the channel. So we were putting notes and then we like blacked out the buttons on the remote for him not to push.
Oh, I see. You really tried to help him any way you could. Hi, everyone. Have you listened to my interviews with Dr. Bill Rawls? He's been on the show twice, and after I read his book on cellular health and learned about his high standards for quality control, I was sold. I placed an order for Vital Plan supplements immediately. And I encourage you to learn about his work by hopping over to vitalplan.com. If you enter Zestful15, they will give you 15% off your first order. I'm excited for you to try these products. I think you're going to be very impressed. Now back to the show. Do you remember when you kind of finally admitted to yourself, like, this isn't quirky anymore? This is something totally different?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that was the moment where I knew for sure we had, he wasn't just experiencing, maybe some other issues. So and he was so stubborn. He would not, I tried to get him to go to the doctor multiple times prior to this to just get checked out. And he absolutely refused. Well, I was brought up in a house where you were really respectful. I never asked my dad how much money he made. I never went into their bedroom or bathroom without knocking. I never once went through my mother's purse. I was just always very respectful of their privacy and their decisions. But I started realizing he wasn't able to make some of those decisions. So I did have a power of attorney after my mom passed away. So that was really honestly a lifesaver for me because I was able to do a lot that you would not be able to do with someone declining without that prior to the declining.
Say more, Darlene. It sounds very important for people to understand. So, had you not had power of attorney, what would have what would that have been like?
Yeah, for my understanding, if you don't have power of attorney and they've already started to decline, it could be a little iffy for an attorney to give you power of attorney if they talk to that person, which would actually be their client, and there's evident that there's something that's not right. So what you would have to do is you would have to go to a judge in order to get I don't think it's called power of attorney. I'm not exactly sure what it's called. A conservatorship, maybe.
Okay.
Something of that nature. So don't quote me on that. But you do have to then go through a judge in order to take those reins. And then if you've got issues with family, anything like that, it could be contested. So it's just significantly more difficult.
But what happens if you don't have legal power? You really can't do anything.
You cannot do anything. I was able to access his, bank account. I was able to get the process moving for him to get extended care because clearly after, he's declining so much, he could not live alone. So, just getting all of that set up, I was able to do that. I was able to make sure that he was able to pay for everything, set up all of his bills. I sold his car because clearly he doesn't need to be driving. I was able to do all of that with the type of power of attorney that I had.
That's I think that's so important for people to hear that, you're going through the emotional part of watching your father decline, but you have to make some hard decisions and do some, logistics. And that is a whole other, those are challenges, totally different challenges.
Absolutely. I refer to it as the roller coaster from hell because you're trying to take care of him. I had to sell his house. I had to move him. I had to go through both of my parents' personal belongings and things. And I found so many journals that both my parents wrote throughout the years, which was a blessing. And yet it's also an emotional journey to go through those. And then also so much stuff that you did not know about your parents, but it's shared in journals. So, I was, lucky enough for that. I guess I should say that I do have some of that, but you're doing that. You're going through the medical. You're also moving someone. And then also I'll be straight up with you. Medicare is just, it was challenging. I don't know. I spent so much time trying to figure out what the heck. I don't know how anyone that's getting older that has cognitive issues even understands what they're getting. So
no, I just interviewed Ken Dykewald, who's a big, he's like at the frontier of aging. And he says, I've published 19 books and I get Medicare. And on one side, it says, this is not a bill. And then on the other side, it says, this is what you owe. And he says, how are like nerdy people even, why is it so complicated?
Right. And then you get into the supplement side, and that's a whole nother ball game. The thing with my dad is that he lived in Orlando and he had his supplemental, I'm not sure which one it was. I can't remember, but he moved over here and then he needed some medical care. So I was taking him to the doctor and then realizing I got a bill. They covered zero. I'm like, how do you cover zero? This is Medicare. And so I ended up spending a couple hours on the phone with Medicare to come to find out what he had purchased in his supplement. I guess they covered some of it, but not, I can't remember, to be honest with you, but some of the stuff was not getting covered that should have been covered. So he was getting a lot of big bills. So I called Medicare, the supplemental, and he had purchased only within a radius around his house.
Oh, wow.
Which I didn't even know was a thing.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're learning trial by fire. And all the time, I'm just going to take a wild guess that he wasn't sitting down with you and being cooperative and thinking this through with you.
No. He, when we took away the vehicle, it was a couple weeks before we moved him, and then we got home care in between that time and the time that he was moved because he needed to have someone going in, and he liked to go to breakfast at a certain place. He went to the breakfast place every single day at a pancake house right around the corner. So I didn't want to take away those little joys that he had in his life. So I would have someone from a home care provider go spend, several hours a day with him and always take him to breakfast. So, so we did those types of things. But the car thing, at first he got very angry, and then he realized, I think he really, in his mind, I think he knew something was wrong in the parts of his mind that were of reasoning. He called me. We were in the process of moving him. We knew we were going to move him, and we knew we had to take away the car. And honestly, taking away the car, I was dreading. Because you think to yourself, and I think to myself, once that's gone, it's gone. You never get it back. That freedom to get in the car and go do whatever you want is over in your life. And to me, that was so heartbreaking to tell him, you're not going to be able to go anywhere at your own will ever again.
Yeah.
And that's what you're telling them. And I mean, think about it now, and there's nobody that wants that. There's nobody that looks and says, hey, that's what I want in my life. So I didn't want to have that conversation, but I knew it was coming. The weekend before, he called me and said some crazy story about he was doing business with some woman, and she came and stole his car because she said he owed her money. So I ended up thinking, well, somebody took advantage of him, and they took his car. His car was stolen, but the police get over there. I leave here. I'm an hour and 20 away, and I'm hightailing it over there, and the police are there. And the police said to me, he came out and the car is there, and he pulled out his keys and says, well, I don't know what she's talking about. The car's here. And I'm like going, I just had the craziest conversation with him where he was like losing his mind. So at that point we said, Dad, the police said that you can't drive anymore. And he was like, okay, because my dad's a rule follower. So if the police say you can't do it, you can't do it. So that was really my get out of jail free card for taking those keys from him. So.
Darlene, how did you get through this in one piece? Were there resources that you use, support you use that you might share with others who are going through a typical situation?
So I didn't have the support that I really truly needed. I had a few people that were working with him. And my dad really passed away about 4 months after we moved him, because one of the things people don't realize about dementia and cognitive issues, such as dementia and Alzheimer's, is that it's not just your mind. Because my dad never forgot who I was. He always knew when I walked in the door exactly who I was. And I every time I would go to see him, I would sit in my car and wonder if this is the day I'm going to walk in and my dad does not know who I am. And that really truly only happened a few days before he passed away. And he was not even like a normal functioning person. He was basically a lunatic, and you could look in his eyes and he did not exist anymore. And he died 4 days after that. But one of the things that was the biggest downfall for him is mobility. He started like having a little bit of issues with his leg. And I thought he maybe hurt his leg because I really did not know. And then he started like holding his arm, like he had like a broken wing or something. And he said it was hurting. He couldn't move it. He couldn't function with it. Well, then the next stage was he started not being able to swallow. So he went probably 20 plus days unable to eat. No matter what I brought him, I would bring him his banana pudding my whole life. My daddy loved banana pudding all day long. And I made him homemade banana pudding. He couldn't even eat it. Yeah. So he lost so much weight that he was just nothingness. You can't just continue to survive for over a month pretty much without food. We could have put him on intravenous feeding. I wasn't going to do that to him.
And during this time, which sounds so painful and intense. Were there groups at the hospital? Were there, I mean, what is
Yeah.
out there for people going through this?
So the Alzheimer's Association has support groups online. So you can go to a local Alzheimer's group that's caregiving support. That is not something I did, but I've come to since find out, oh my goodness, it's available. There's a lot of caregiver support groups for people that are working, have someone that's living in their home with dementia, that's going through it, that's lost someone, or even just dealing or taking care of a senior that, that's hard. It's hard to take care of a senior in your home and that type of thing. But the Alzheimer's Association has caregiver support groups 24/7 online. And you can also do join groups via Zoom if you don't have a group that's local in your area that meets in person, or you can't get out because you're kind of tied at staying at home.
Right.
So yeah. And I've been just amazed at what Alzheimer's does provide. A lot of people think it's just the research side, and it's really not. It's all encompassing for anyone dealing with cognitive issues with a loved one.
So you would highly recommend that. And it sounds like you wish you would have had that available while you were going through it or been aware of it.
Oh, 100%. And then also look at caregiver support in your local area as well. I know that even here in our area, there's a hospital that has a caregiver support group. They have a senior consultation center, which deals with a lot of dementia issues, and they have a very robust caregiver support group. So I'm sure that other areas, they can find something that might be more localized or they feel more comfortable with versus just going to, Alzheimer's Association. But, I really feel like that's something that's super universal, and they do offer really good support groups.
Were you working in the senior field at this time, or is that something that has been more recent for you?
Yeah, I had just started. I just really had not even been at very long. And my background is digital marketing. So I was doing digital marketing for a senior living housing website, seniorlivingguide.com. And one of the things that really, I think everything kind of happens for a reason. And everything I went through with my dad, when I still think about it, I miss him so much. And it's just such a hard thought because it happened so quickly. It was, like I said, the roller coaster from hell. But when COVID hit, we started doing a podcast, seniorlivingguide.com podcast. And one of the things that I wanted and was my passion, and of course our company's passion as well, is to provide resources through podcasting for seniors, caregivers, and their families. And we've been able to talk a lot about dementia, all kinds of different subjects, as far as even just some of the signs, different things that work well, even just like color. Certain color is attractive to a senior. And then even, bedding, how, someone with dementia and Alzheimer's will tend to want to stay in bed, how you can motivate them through colored sheets to get up because the color. Yeah. So there's so many different topics that we've covered on this subject. And every time I get on one, my mind just goes because it's different. So I want people to become educated and understand, and then hear other people that are on that can relate, so they don't feel like they're alone. You're never alone when you are taking care of someone with dementia or Alzheimer's, and you should never feel alone. You do need that support 100%. I wish I had had it because I spent a lot of time like crying in my car and the shower and, any place else that I could just do it in private while I was dealing with it, because I really just did not know what to do.
Yeah. I can't emphasize that enough, is the power of support. I mean, we're mammals. We're supposed to be in a pod. We're not supposed to do things by ourselves. Darlene, where can people find out more about the work you're doing now?
Yeah, so I am a podcast host, like I mentioned, for seniorlivingguide.com podcast. It is a senior caregiver resource podcast. It's available Spotify, Apple, anywhere you would listen to a podcast for the most part. And then we also have a website, seniorlivingguide.com, and it's a resource for senior housing, home health, home care. We have some incredible blogs. We have a lot of different resources on there for seniors and their families. So that's really what I do.
Yeah. It's so important. And there's, as you mentioned, this is becoming much more common that people all around us are caregiving, and it has some profound challenges. So whatever support you can be involved in is just so important. And I wanted to thank you for sharing your experience with us today, Darlene. I know it's a tender subject, and I really do think people will appreciate it and so relate to it. So thank you so much for spending time with me today.
I absolutely appreciate it. And if anyone wants to hear more of the story, seniorlivingguide.com podcast has the podcast, My Dad's Dementia. And that's where I share the beginning of my journey.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends.
Our theme song is All I Did Was Wait for You by Kjartan Abel. Visit Kjartan-Abel, that's KJARTAN-Abel, ABEL.com to hear more of Kjartan's work. And our technical director is Stephen Litweiler.
Hello, Zesties. Well, many of you know that I've been a psychotherapist for more than 30 years, and I'm an expert in healthy aging. But what you might not know is that I'm also a midlife coach, and I help women like you clarify and design the life you want to live in your second half. A life that's vibrant and feels uniquely like you. Maybe you've spent your entire life caring for others in one way or another, and you're a bit stuck with how to move forward in this new phase of your life. Or maybe you're considering a career change or other big life transition. Or maybe you're in the middle of a life change you didn't see coming. You may be asking yourself questions like, who am I now? And how do I build a new kind of life for myself? Or how do I make the most of the time I have left? This stage in our lives is the perfect time to pause, recalibrate, and reassess where our life is heading and ask ourselves what deserves our precious time. Now is the time to focus on what brings you joy and a sense of deep, calm contentment. I love helping women discover who they are in addition to being caregivers. After our sessions, you will have a clear plan for making your life more vibrant and deeply satisfying. You will feel a sense of control because you will be making choices that are perfect for you. And you will feel more confident because you will have an individualized blueprint to follow. And because you're a Zestful Aging podcast listener, I'm offering a special package deal. Contact me at zestfulaging.com right through my contact link. Time is truly precious, and there's no time to waste.
And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest. See you then.